They laughed at me in the cafe that morning, three strangers at the next table, snickering as I fumbled with a cracked phone and spilled coffee. One of them muttered, "Some people just don't know when they're not needed anymore." I didn't say a word, because they didn't know me. They didn't know that the same woman they called useless once slept in train stations, used plastic bags for pillows, and lost everything when her late husband's business crumbled in the dark. They didn't know that I'd rebuilt quietly, and that soon, the world would be reading about a missing luxury cruise and the grandmother who vanished, with her grandkids on board. It started with one sentence. "You're too old to babysit, Mom. We have it under control." That's what my son told me. No warning. No discussion. After all the years I'd helped raise his children, from midnight feedings to kindergarten drop-offs, he looked me in the eye and pushed me aside like worn-out furniture. I smiled politely. I nodded. But something in me cracked, not out of spite, but out of clarity. I had spent decades living for everyone else. It was time to take back the life I never got to live. What no one knew was that during those years of homelessness and hardship, I had invested small sums in obscure stocks, solar tech, medical devices, eco-cruise lines. Forgotten names that no one cared about until they exploded. The modest portfolio I built while sleeping on library steps? It was now worth 7 figures. But I never told my family. Not out of bitterness. Just instinct. I wanted them to see me, not my money. Clearly they never did. So, when my son and his wife left for a 2-week retreat in the mountains, leaving the kids with a part-time nanny, I made a quiet call to someone I hadn't spoken to in years, the CEO of a private cruise company I once helped fund. Within 72 hours, a custom world cruise itinerary was ready. Every stop was chosen with intention: Greece for mythology class, Japan for their love of anime, Dubai for the space exhibit. I wasn't stealing my grandkids. I was educating them in a way no school ever could. The neighbors saw the black van pull up. They watched my grandkids run out with backpacks and matching travel journals. And when I walked past those same strangers from the cafe, dressed in a tailored emerald coat, one of them gasped, "Is that?" I didn't look back. On the ship, something changed. The children, once glued to screens, began writing poems about sunsets. They learned local languages. They helped chefs cook traditional meals. And somewhere between Sydney and Istanbul, they stopped calling it Grandma's Vacation and started calling it home. But the real story was unfolding back home. My son returned to an empty house. No nanny. No note. Just a voicemail. "They're safe. They're learning. You'll understand one day." Panic set in. The police were called. News headlines read, "Wealthy widow vanishes with grandchildren on secret voyage." Social media exploded. Family drama trended. And still I said nothing. Because this wasn't revenge. It was revelation. What no one knew, not the media, not my son, not even the cruise company, was that this trip was more than an escape. It was a goodbye tour. A hidden medical diagnosis had been looming over me for months. I didn't want sympathy. I wanted to leave something real. Memories. Experiences. Wisdom. And I had one last surprise. At each stop, I arranged for sealed envelopes to be delivered to people who had helped me when I was invisible: a janitor who once gave me food, a bus driver who let me ride for free, a library clerk who never asked why I stayed till closing. Inside each envelope, a check. Enough to change their lives. I didn't announce it. I didn't want credit. I just wanted them to know I remembered. The cruise ended in silence. No reporters. No cameras. Just one final sunset as we returned. My grandkids were returned safely, minds full of stories. My son waited at the dock, face pale, eyes filled with something he'd never shown before: regret. But I didn't say a word. I handed him a letter. Inside, a photo of us on the deck, laughing under the stars, and the will. Not of money, but of memories. Teach them to live. Not just survive, it read. I walked away. Not because I was angry, but because I had already given the greatest gift I could. And somewhere on that dock, as the cruise ship faded behind me and the sea breeze wrapped around my coat, I heard someone whisper, "That's her, the grandma who rewrote the ending." And maybe, just maybe, the story was only beginning.